The judge signs your sentencing sheet at 2:14 p.m. on a Thursday. Not a pause, not a glance. 60 years, like a grocery total. Your lawyer exhales through his nose. Behind you, your mother collapses into the wooden bench. You don't turn around. You already know what her face looks like, and you can't afford to know it again. Nobody arrives here by accident. Every man in Altiplano walked a road with mile markers. Yours started on Calle Cinco in Culiacán, a street that flooded every rainy season and dried into cracked clay, unpaved, unfinished cinder block. Your mother worked 12-hour hotel shifts for 2,800 pesos a week. Your father was a name on a birth certificate and nothing else. At 14, you sat outside Doa Carmen's tienda and sent texts when you spotted patrol cars. They paid you 1,500 pesos a week, cash, folded once, no eye contact. More than your mother made scrubbing toilets. Your first Nokia was your first promotion. You told yourself it was temporary. You told yourself a lot of things at 14. At 16, a university kid in a new Volkswagen handed you 800 pesos for a small bag. He had a campus backpack. You had a borrowed pistol you didn't actually know how to fire. He came to you. In that inverted economy, you were the businessman. Nobody on the outside tells that part. They tell the ending. They skip the arithmetic that made it inevitable. Your boss went by Tello, 24 years old, armored Raptor, clean Nikes, a phone that never stopped buzzing. He answered to someone whose name you only heard in a lowered voice, like a prayer to a god you weren't sure was listening, a multinational corporation with rifles instead of quarterly reports. You were a low-level employee in the most profitable industry in the state of Sinaloa. At 18, you fired a weapon at a person for the first time. 2 blocks from the park where you played football as a kid. Your bullet, his abdomen. 3 hours later, a clinic that didn't ask questions. You threw up twice with the faucet running so nobody heard. Your hands shook for 11 days. Then they stopped. That was the part that scared you more than the shaking. The moment your body simply accepted it. You told yourself it was survival. Some nights you believed it. At 22, they assigned you to a planning unit. Not the men who pulled triggers, the man who decided when, where, and how. You studied targets for 72 hours before any operation. Gym schedules, traffic patterns on Tuesday mornings, police response times down to the minute. You were an operations engineer inside a machine that produced death with industrial efficiency. The shooters were disposable. You were a strategic asset. That distinction kept you alive and guaranteed you would never be allowed to leave. At 25, you earned 800,000 pesos a month. Ocean View House in Mazatlan. 3 vehicles. Everything the tinted window trucks had promised from that plastic chair. But the paranoia arrived with the money, locked to it like a shadow. Bulletproof vest every morning, a firearm in the glove box, under the pillow, behind the toilet tank. 4 hours of sleep, not discipline. Fear, relentless, structural fear with no off switch. The thing you couldn't tell anyone, you were already exhausted. At 25. But there is no resignation letter inside a cartel. No 2 weeks' notice. The only exits had names, and none of them were yours yet. The arrest came at 5:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. 23 Marines. A Blackhawk that shook the windows before you understood you were awake. Barefoot across hot asphalt. Your girlfriend screaming. Your dog mid-bark until someone's boot connected. Neighbors filmed from windows they'd been waiting years to use. Those videos hit 8 million views in 72 hours. Comments said he deserves it. Nobody wrote. He was 14 when it started and nobody offered him anything else. That version doesn't generate clicks. The legal process lasted 14 months. Altiplano from day one. A cell measuring 6 by 10 feet with artificial light around the clock. 1 hour of yard time. A lawyer who arrived every 2 weeks with folders full of language designed to obscure the fact that the outcome was already written. The government had 40,000 cataloged text messages from your phone. They had enough to sentence you 4 times. They settled for 60 years because the press conference needed a number with weight. Your mother cried in the courtroom. Your younger brother sat 2 rows back, 17 years old, running the same calculation you ran at 14, the same arithmetic, the same conclusion. The refrigerator was empty then too. First day in the sentenced wing. The rules shift. Official law is laminated paper nobody reads. The module boss goes by Don Aurelio, 58 years old, 19 years inside, a flat-screen television in his cell, and a personal cook with fresh ingredients that arrive through the same channels as the product. He looked at you the way a CFO looks at a promising line item. Within 2 weeks you were coordinating external communications through 4 cell phones charging off cables threaded through the walls like contraband veins. Operations planned in a 10 by 10 cell. Executed across Sinaloa, Sonora, Durango. The geography changed. The work didn't. The routine locked in fast. 6 a.m. count. Eggs, beans, real coffee, not the institutional water the unaffiliated ate. 8 a.m. Work. 1 p.m. Yard. Circles under a sky that looked impossibly blue because it was the only unobstructed thing left. 10 p.m. Lights out. Nobody slept at 10. When the metal doors and radios went quiet, what remained was your mind. And your mind was a more effective punishment than anything the federal system ever designed. The faces came at night. The first. The fifth. The one who said nothing. The one who begged. The one who was the same age as your brother. You'd lost count of the total, and the losing count horrified you more than any single memory. Month 3, 3 inches of rusted metal entered your left side. It missed your kidney by the width of a thumb. 14 stitches in the infirmary with anesthesia that didn't fully work. You screamed. Nobody in the hallway paused. You left with a debt to Don Aurelio and learned not to ask what settling it looked like. Month 6, your mother waited in line from 4 a.m. for a 45-minute visit. The tamales she brought, your favorite since childhood, confiscated at the gate for failing specification. She sat across a plastic table and tried to hold her face together. She told you your brother dropped out of school. The floor beneath you disappeared. You wanted to tell him not to do what you did, but you were the proof that it works before it destroys, and 17-year-old boys count the truck in the house and stop counting before they reach year 60. Year 3. Your lawyer stops answering. 6 bullets outside his Culiacán office on a Monday morning. He was your last legal connection to a sentence reduction. Now you are a number in a file nobody will open again. Year 5. Your brother gets arrested at 22, half a kilo of meth, a pistol with the serial filed off. Your mother now travels 2 separate prison routes on 2 separate Saturdays. Your middle brother crossed the Arizona desert 8 months ago. He could be washing dishes in Phoenix. He could be in an ice facility. He could be in a mass grave in the Sonoran desert. All 3 carry equal mathematical probability. The uncertainty is its own sentence that appears in no regulation. Year 7. You start writing. Not for redemption, out of pressure, the need to move something through a channel that isn't violence or silence. Long circular thoughts about how a system produces exactly what you are, with the reliability of a factory producing a specific part. How locking up the part does nothing to stop the factory. Because the factory runs on hunger, and hunger has no arrest record. Year 10. 35 years old. 3 stab scars. Chronic insomnia indistinguishable from your personality. In the cell you once coordinated on the outside, 8 of the 15 are dead. 3 are in separate prisons. 2 disappeared, which means one thing. You have 50 years remaining. Mathematically, release at 85. Realistically, you will die here, not violently, probably, but slowly, of hypertension and the erosion of living in a space where the horizon is a concrete wall 12 feet away. You look at yourself in the rusted metal above the sink. The 14-year-old from the plastic chair is gone. You killed him somewhere between the first Nokia and the first body, and you didn't hold a funeral because you needed the space he occupied for something harder. What remains is a man whose gaze moves through rooms without landing on anything, because landing means expecting. And expectation is a luxury 50 years will train out of you. Somewhere in Culiacán right now, a 14-year-old is sitting on a bench outside a store. Someone is going to fold 1,500 pesos and place it in his hand and give him a phone. He is going to say yes, because the refrigerator is empty and school never once filled a stomach. He doesn't know about you. Or he does, and he's already counted the truck at 20 and stopped counting before 60. He's sending his first text. He feels useful for the first time in his life. The chain tightens around a new link. The sentence is already written in a language he can't read yet. The judge is already reaching for the pen. The chain always continues. Because the chain isn't made of cartel members or prisoners. It's made of hunger. And hunger doesn't get sentenced. Hunger simply waits on the corner, patient, eternal, offering 1,500 pesos a week and a phone to whoever sits down on the bench.